Hi, everybody. We survived Con Carolinas. Somehow. I'm John Hartness, and I usually play the role of Fendingo the Fantastical, but it's a very special Authors and Dragons. So I'm just the guy who writes Quincy Harker Demon Hunter, Bubba the Monster Hunter, and the Black Knight Chronicles. God damn, I almost said Caverns and Creatures, but I'm not that fucking funny. My newest release will be Shades of Grey, and it is the end of Bubba the Monster Hunter Season 4. And it releases on the 28th of June, so 1 week after you're listening to this. Go pre-order my shit.
Hi everyone, my name is Rick Gualtieri, and normally I play Silas Kane / the Mysterious Arrow of the Gods. But tonight apparently I'm just playing me. And in real life, if you've seen me, you might mistake me for the person who writes Caverns and Creatures, but you'd be wrong, and I'd probably just throw something at you. In real life, I actually write the Tome of Bill comedy horror series, and my newest book, Get Bent, The Hybrid of High Moon Book 1, which is a comedic urban fantasy, should be out by the time you're listening to this. So if you're listening to this and you haven't bought it, the fuck, dude?
Hi there, I also am Robert Bevan, but I'm also Stephen Weverill, and I'm also Brandon Firemaster. I am the author of the comedy fantasy series The Doomsayer Journeys, recently re-released by Falstaff Books, so go check them out.
I am Drew Hayes, normally the captain of this ever-sinking shit ship. Ooh, that was harder to say than I thought it would be. But tonight, I am just a regular writer of books such as Superpowers, NPCs, Fred the Vampire Accountant, and my newest release is going to be the audio of Superpowers Year 4, which comes out on July 3rd, and should clock in somewhere around 60 hours.
Loose lips sinks shit ships. No, can't say it.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
So I already pre-ordered Superpowers 4 on audio, and now I'm looking at booking extra cons to drive to so that I'll have enough car time in my life to listen to that fucking thing.
Yeah, it's going to be an undertaking. It is, as long as they don't shave too much, it is 2.5 days long, and I am ungodly proud of that.
Yeah, I was going to say, forget about a commute. Your book is an entire work week plus overtime.
Yeah, it is. Wow.
And if your employer really sucks and doesn't want to give you more than 30 hours so that they have to pay benefits, it's more than 2 work weeks.
Wow.
Well, if you can't do quality, do quantity.
That statement brought to you by Kirkland Light.
Well, I mean, nothing's really brought to us by Kirkland Light anymore. Not even Kirkland Light.
Just tears.
Anyway, if you can't tell, we're being a little loose this week. We are doing a interlude episode.
Yay!
Hey, everybody loves interlude episodes.
I was dialing back to being a little loose this week.
Normally, we try and rein it at least into character before going completely off the rails. But with interludes, we don't have to do that. We can just sit back, take your questions, and be assholes right out of the gate.
We don't even have to do that.
Fuck you, Mark. Let's just get it out of the way now.
Yeah. All right, Rick, do you want to hit us with some questions?
Yes, we have a ton of questions this week. Thanks to John for putting up the question thread early this morning, and people just hit it hard and fast. So I think we'll probably just go down the list here, and the only ones we'll skip are the ones that just we've either answered before or suck, or we've answered before and suck. But we're going to start off with our friend Catherine, who asks, "What were your favorite weird moments from Con Carolinas?"
Ooh.
Oh.
I should imagine this is probably going to be the meat of the podcast. The traditional post-Con Carolinas decompress, where we talk about how weird yet enjoyable Con Carolinas was.
One of my favorite moments was Thursday night before the con started. I'd been out to dinner with some people and decided to come over to the con hotel and see Bevan and Rick, which has now become tradition because they get in early and we drink a few beers before the con.
A few.
And then I drive home because I'm a redneck and I drive a big pickup truck, so driving home drunk's kind of my thing.
Yes, and then Bevan and I retire to our room. Oh, wait. Cut that part.
But I get there, and they're sitting in the lobby talking to this nice woman and her dad, and they're chatting away, and I talk a little, and I don't remember if it was Bob or Rick says, yeah, they came to the con to see us. I was like, shit, that's awesome. And then somebody said, yeah, from Seattle. To which I was like, fuck. You guys are awesome. And you need a life. But you're awesome.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it was weird how, like, Bevan and I, saw them, because they walked past us, and, I think we noticed them staring at us, and we were just like, okay, they're just weirdos staring at us. And then they turned the corner to go to, the elevators, and then they popped their heads out again and kept staring at us. And at that point, it's like, okay, are we going to wake up tomorrow without our kidneys? But then they walked over, and they were like, hey, are you, Rick Gualtieri and Robert Bevan? And it's not like, and I think that might have been obvious since I was wearing a Bill shirt and he was wearing a Caverns and Creatures shirt, and it was either we were Rick and Bevan, or we were just two losers wearing loser T-shirts.
Both of those can still be true.
True, but then they were like, hey, we came all the way from Seattle to see you guys, and we both of us, I think, kind of took a beat and step and the fuck, really? We figured there was a punchline there or something. And it wasn't. I mean, talk about starting the con off on probably the most awesome way you can. The only way that would have gotten better is if if they had said, oh, and we brought you bags of money too.
Right.
Take a note for next time, guys.
There were a lot of great moments at the con, getting to do panels with people I really respect, meeting fans. Just tons of fun. The Authors and Dragons live show, those were all great. But as far as weird moments, I think I have to say there's nothing quite like the stares you get walking through a convention floor with an unwieldily large and visibly sagging bag of Taco Bell suspended in your arm. That was an interesting moment for me to experience, and definitely not one I've had at any other convention for sure.
That experience lingered not just for Steve, because I ordered tacos and never got them until many hours later. So there was no way I was eating that shit 4 hours later.
That experience did not linger for me at all.
It lingered for my friend Chris Shrewsbury, because I walked up behind his wheelchair and tied the Taco Bell bag to the back handle of his wheelchair. And he rolled around the rest of the night with Taco Bell behind him. And this is
Have you done something to upset you, John?
Not really. Not really. I mean, that's just kind of what Chris and I do. Actually, no, that's not anything we've ever done before. No, I'm just awful.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. It makes sense in that context.
There's a whole circle of people watching me do this. And Chris is sitting there like, what are you doing? I said, don't ask questions. It'll be over in a minute.
If you ever ask John what he's doing and he responds, don't ask questions, ask questions.
Ask all the questions. I think he rode around with that Taco Bell tied to his wheelchair for a good 2 hours. So if you saw a really...
At that point, it probably became sentient.
Yeah. So if you saw a one-legged man in a Star Trek costume rolling around with this miasma of Mexican food following him, that was Chris.
Honestly, if you can smell that on a con floor, that's a pretty impressive con floor.
Yeah.
That is the very definition of red shirt right there.
Steve, was your weird moments the post Taco Bell?
I wouldn't call that weird. I'd call that just, accelerated nature. It's kind of familiar, but quicker. I think filming it was kind of weird.
Wait.
I'm not kind of...
What?
I don't really like eating in front of people at the best of times, but then recording, it's like, you bought this big wet bag of stodge and said, "Hey, we're going to eat this on camera because this is what the people want." And that was strange, yeah. Because not only was I eating in front of camera, but we were eating it on the con floor. So basically, I was just kind of eating this damp handfuls of meat in front of everybody, like some kind of, I guess, performance artist. So yeah, that was strange. But by the time we got to that, it had already been a very weird time for me anyway. So that was kind of, I guess I just accepted that. The entire Friday was weird for me. I was in a very weird place.
You mean North Carolina?
You just reached that place where you were like, "This is my existence. This is what it is. This is what it has all come down to."
Well, I had plans on sleeping because I was flying overnight Thursday, but I did not sleep at all. I ended up in an airport for 5 hours that didn't even have chairs, and aggressively played the same kind of public service announcement, seemingly every 10.3 minutes. Just as I was trying to get to sleep on this hard airport floor. So my original plan of kind of sleeping before Con Carolinas, so I could be sane and, somewhat approachable, didn't work. I think I went about 48 hours on maybe 3 45-minute naps. So all of Friday seemed really weird to me.
And then there was the amusement of Joe looking for you in the airport, and you just walk into the hotel.
Yeah, I was not on the ball, is what I'm trying to say. I was not in a good mental place for the entirety of Friday. We met Emily Kaplan, who was a guest DM on this show, and she's a big supporter of the podcast, and we all think she's great. And I was really looking forward to meeting her. And on the Friday, where I'd been awake for a very long time on very little sleep, and I was in an elevator. And then the door opened, and who should get on? It's Emily Kaplan. And I thought, I should say hi. And then I thought, no, I should just stay in the corner and stare at her until she notices me. And that's what I did. And then she turned around and double took and went, "Oh, hi." And I was like, haha, my strategy worked. And I thought, I've made that unnecessarily uncomfortable for both of us.
And the best part about that is that it's not the strangest arriving at Con Carolina's story out of the bunch. Because Joe talked to architecture.
That is a good point. Yeah, he had his own kind of weird mental place coming in, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a spirit quest, thing there.
It was very Bjorg. He talked to a pillar, thinking it was a person.
Well, he apologised to it because he walked into it. I think if it had been anything less than the pillar, he probably would have just ploughed through it. But
shown it who was boss.
I mean, there were so many awesome parts of Con Carolinas, meeting readers, meeting the mods from my group, all of our guest DMs, that sausage gravy at that toastery place.
Oh fuck, that sausage gravy was so good.
But I think my favorite weird moment was just that couple seconds of angry Bevan. Of when you open a Kirkland Light, you better goddamn drink it. Because for those of you who don't know, I mean, Bevan, online, he can he can scare people with the best of them, but in person, he is just he's this really mellow, sweet guy, He people have pretty much just said, he just comes across as harmless.
He's got a very zen vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a very at peace dude.
But now we know where that line in the sand is.
Yeah. Not drinking a Kirkland Light you've opened.
One of the last Kirkland Lights in existence.
he had every right to be angry, let's be fair. But that was Friday as well. That's when we did the Power Hour, right?
Yes.
That was that day.
Oh, goddamn, Drew.
Jesus Christ. When that happened, I thought we did the Power Hour. Unplanned in my room. I'd already told the hotel staff that. I don't want to be on the party floor. And then took about a dozen people back to my room. Went, yeah, it's Power Hour, really loudly. Fuck you, neighbours. So sorry about that, neighbours.
At 1 a.m.
And afterwards I thought, wow, I felt just done a power and I feel surprisingly good. And then the whole kind of recollection of the event warps. And the next thing I know, we're in the hotel lobby and I'm screaming that Bevan is the second coming of Christ and that I'll fist fight Hindus.
Missed that one.
I don't know why specifically I picked on Hindus. I've got nothing against Hindus. Or any religion for that matter, now that I'm on the record of this.
Speaking of Jesus, Bevan, my wife wanted to know, did you actually videotape us giving him Ron Weasley Jeremy?
Oh, you know what? I've got some of that video, but I missed the very start of it. That wasn't a weird con moment. That was an emotional time, beautiful. I think, for all of us. That was a beautiful con moment when we presented him with... And that's an interesting story because before we went up, I opened a secret chat called Shh, Don't Tell Bevan. And I said, why don't we try and find Bevan a stuffed weasel so it could be Ron Weasley Jeremy? And we found one on Amazon. It was perfect. It also operated as a puppet. But what's beautiful about it is that Bevan, while he was at the con, was saying, I was saying to my wife that I should have bought a stuffed weasel before I came down here. And we were like, he's going to love this.
The night before, when we were talking to that Seattle couple, he started talking about that. He's like, yeah, the only thing I'm regretting about this game is I don't have a stuffed weasel. And I'm just sitting there, and the woman's talking. She's like, well, maybe we can go on Amazon and like, and overnight it. And I'm like standing behind Bevan, like waving at her, going like, no, just like, you're off this conversation.
When we presented it to him, and I'm so gutted I didn't get the first 2 minutes because he was like a kid at Christmas. It was lovely. We gave him that little Ron Weasley Jeremy puppet, and it looked like we'd just given him an actual puppy.
But what's the first thing he did? He shoved his hand up the wrong end.
Oh, we should probably move on to question number 2.
Okay.
We got
while we're on the subject of Bevan, Carl asks, "Hi guys, so is Robert Bevan always drunk, or is that just the way he sounds all the time?"
Can we just say yes?
It's a column A, column B situation.
The second one is definitely true. I don't know on the first one.
Most of the time, I interact with Bevan. He's drunk.
Yeah, but that's because it's the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's.
I think, as we've said, Bevan just has a very, relaxed, natural way of speaking. It's honestly hard to tell when he's getting drunk because he always kind of has that chill sound.
Until he snores.
Or vanishes.
No, you can tell when he gets drunk because his eyes kind of glaze over, and you can tell that's the point where he's putting on the mask and drunk Batman is taking over.
Yeah, then you're going to start seeing some ninja shit.
Were we explaining that to someone at Con Carolina, and then we turned around and he had done it?
Yeah.
He pulled it.
Yeah, I think that was Saturday night. We were just hanging in the lobby, and we were mentioning it, and he was like right behind me or something. We turned around, and it was like that he wasn't.
That's the weirdest thing. I don't know how he does it.
I got a weird con moment that isn't related to any of you guys or the podcast. And again, it was Friday night, very drunk, and I was hanging around in the smoking area, just kind of. Everybody had kind of gone their own separate ways and gone to bed. For I'm going to bed. I'm too drunk. Everything's spinning around a bit. And as I was going in, there was this young woman in floods of tears, and kind of what I guess was her boyfriend was consoling her. And it shook me into reality. And I was like, "Oh God, what's happened? Do you want me to go get the hotel staff? Do I need to go get security?" And she looked at me and just really sincerely said, "Spider-Man's an asshole." And I just thought, right, I'm going to bed. That's weird.
I'm also 99% sure that was Saturday night.
Was that Saturday?
That was definitely Saturday night.
Either way, that was a weird con moment. I was in a vulnerable place and just I was not equipped to deal with that.
Equipped to deal with Spider-Man being an asshole.
God damn, that story would have been so much better if it ended with you going off to find and beat the shit out of Spider-Man.
I've had a lot of experience working in nightclubs. I'm not, talking to drunk people. That is the first complaint about Spider-Man I've ever had. So yeah, it's kind of strange.
And to go even further, if he went off to beat the shit out of Spider-Man and he found out that Spider-Man was Naked Ferret Jesus cosplaying as Spider-Man, then it's all kinds of weird. That's 2 years worth of weird.
Yeah, but you know something? Yeah. Then you would have been a true hero.
Yeah, because if you beat the shit out of that dude, it would have been great.
Oh.
All right. We're going to skip this question because we kind of already answered it. All right, our friend Steven asks, and here's one for you, Drew. Have you ever considered publishing a campaign source book for the Superpowers universe, one that was compatible with one of the superhero systems? And then he puts in big letters, please?
It has absolutely something that has been considered and has been talked about in some capacities. One of the bigger hitches in that thing is, one, I don't have really connections to a game company. So, that's something that would have to be a little more actively pursued. The other one is that there's not really a default standard for superhero games that is generally recognized in the same way that D&D is held as like the standard for your sword and sorcery. Superhero systems are very difficult to balance, and thus far, there really haven't been many that nailed it perfectly. So it is something that I am considering, and there might be things going on in the background working toward that, but nothing that would be near a point where I could discuss it.
All right, we have one from our friend Mark. Say it with me now.
Fuck you,
Mark.
That was so lackluster, I love it. It's like an extra layer of go suck your own dick.
You're not even worth an emphatic fuck you, Mark. I mean, come on, you got to step up your game
We're
here,
just
dude.
half-assing it now. We're just going through the motions.
But he wanted to know, he said, since Bevan is headed to England soon, will he be there for a game night? And if so, we'll be hanging out with you, Steve.
He will be, yeah. We're going to be. I haven't worked out the logistics yet because Bevan refuses to plan anything ahead, so I'm not. But he's definitely said we're going to do the episode together. So I guess I have to kind of, because it's usually kind of 1 a.m. when we record in England, and I'm thinking we can't just start drinking and say we'll record at 1 a.m. because otherwise we'll be, I guess, incomprehensibly drunk by then. So what I normally do is go to bed and then wake up, then record it. But I don't know. I think you guys will probably get the incomprehensibly drunk.
They won't know the difference.
We're just going to do the introductions, and the rest of us are going to hang up and just let you guys ramble for 2 hours.
It just might be a conversation between me and Bevan doing his British accent.
I mean, you just got to let that run, right? I mean, you just got to let that run.
No, he's already told me he's going to, when he visits England, he's going to be doing the accent for the entirety of his stay. And I've told him that he won't offend anyone and it'll be fine. So we'll see how that goes.
You see that? You should follow him around and tape.
Well, I tried to get him being killed by the escalator this year. Didn't happen. So maybe beaten to death by angry cockneys is...
I think if Bevan dies in any way that involves the word cock, like in the headline, he'll go out happy. Like he'll be like, all right, one last dick joke.
I didn't even think of that.
All right, here's one for all of us. Catalina asks, or she says, last week Joe talked about knowing many ways of killing a bear. What's the strangest thing the rest of you have looked up for a book?
People look things up for books.
Did he talk about ways of killing a bear, or did he talk about ways of killing a horse?
Well, I just read Bevan's books for that.
Yeah. It honestly could go either way. I don't remember that well.
Oh, I think I'm talking about the Con Carolinas panel. There was a killing a horse deviation there, I'm sure.
Oh, no, that was killing the dog.
Sure.
Killing the dog.
Yep.
I think there might have been horse killing too, actually. I think Steve's right.
Well, a horse is just a big dog, really, isn't it?
A big dog that you grind up and feed to other dogs, thus making all dogs cannibals.
Oh.
There's your deep thought for the night.
God damn it! I cleaned my office. There's no whiskey on my desk.
We're taking some real
Fucking
deep
hell.
turns on this. What was the question again? Oh, weirdest thing.
What is the strangest thing you've looked up for a book?
I've been doing a lot of research on 1939 France. That's weird for me. Because I don't usually write historical shit, so anything that's rooted in the real world. For Zombies Ain't My Homework, I had to do a lot of research on sex toys. I learned way more about butt plugs than I ever really wanted to know for that book.
I think we need to answer on the behalf of Bevan because it was a big part of our Con Carolinas experience. But Robert Bevan's knowledge of the cloaca is encyclopedic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, uncomfortably encyclopedic.
Worryingly.
Yeah.
Oh.
There were so many impromptu lectures about the cloaca throughout the con experience. I'm sure a lot of people left that place far more educated than they were comfortable being.
Yeah, I mean, consider the stuff right. I mean, I sometimes look up various ways to kill people. You know, I have, you know, have had to like look up various things involving bukkake and stuff. You know, I mean, but nothing I'm saying there should like come as any surprise to anybody who's read my shit. So.
Yeah, I've had to go kind of deep on like what happens when like limbs get severed and like certain kinds of injuries. Or, you know, kind of like some deep medical dives. It's, you know, I grew up in a very medical family, and every now and then I have to expand on that knowledge. So, sorry, Mom, didn't become a doctor, but I have to Google some medical stuff sometimes.
Yeah, I mean,
probably
the weird stuff I look up is actually more mundane things. It's like, okay, what's the kickback of a rifle? You know, that's weird for me to look up, but that's not going to make anybody blink. You know?
Yeah, I had a conversation a month or so ago. I had lunch with a guy who used to be a SWAT sniper, and there's a lot of guns in my books. I don't really know much about guns. I have a shotgun because I'm a Southern and I have a house, but other than that, I don't really know a whole lot about guns, but you got to get that shit right. So I know a lot about 5 or 6 specific guns. And nobody carries any guns other than those in any of my books. Because fuck learning new things.
So I don't think I've spent a lot of time researching particularly weird stuff. I think, and the stuff I do tend to rabbit hole on, I end up not using. I think time travel was, I tried to look up string theory and thought, you know what, I'm going to look up string theory so there's some kind of basis for my time travel mechanics in this book. I spent hours doing that, and then I went, no, you know what, I'm writing a fantasy book, I'm just going to say there's fucking time travel and that's it. I don't need to explain time travel to you because it's very difficult. And the other thing again is very mundane stuff. I remember spending kind of hours trying to figure out what the name of the robes that for example Lawrence of Arabia would have worn. And I never found a straight answer, so I ended up just calling them robes. And that turned out to suffice. So
I was going to say, what I find interesting is all the shit that, like, sometimes I actually do research that winds up on the cutting room floor. Like, for the Bill books, Alexander the Great is a big, like, you know, character. And I had pages and pages of research on him. And then I realized that my main character, who you're looking at the, like, who you're following the books through his eyes, he wouldn't give a shit about any of that.
Which is convenient. Yeah, pretty much in the same place. Yeah. I do a lot of research and stuff that makes me feel better, but is in no way useful to the reader at all, or the character.
Well, but when I talk to new writers, that's one thing I tell them is you need to know all this shit, but it doesn't need to necessarily make it in your story. It's like somebody out there knows exactly how many bathrooms there were on the Enterprise and what decks they were on. And we never gave a single fuck during an episode of Star Trek how many bathrooms there were on the Enterprise.
I always assumed they were just like on the holodecks. There's a holodeck of a bathroom, and it was really just a guy shitting in a room.
So it was Klaus.
Yeah, pretty much. They just shit wherever they want, and just had the holodeck kind of project a toilet around them.
Yeah. But what you're saying, John, is that and the thing is that one person in the whole world who knows how many bathrooms on the Enterprise, if you get it wrong, he will take you to task for it.
Yeah. But, David Gerald's on my Facebook feed, so if anybody gives me shit about Star Trek, I just point him in his direction and say, fuck you, this guy made Tribbles. It's fine.
Yeah. Like, fuck you, Picard shit in a bucket, okay?
Yeah.
The 24th century, he had a fucking bucket in his ready room.
He could have had a toilet. Toilets were an option. He chose a bucket.
Yes.
He's fucking hardcore, man.
The old motherfucker would just drop his pants and shit right in the replicator.
I could almost see Patrick Stewart just doing that as a power move.
It's not even as a power move. It'd be incredibly practical. I mean, that's how the replicator works. It takes molecules from other things and makes them into other things. It doesn't say what those other things are, does it?
Now take that and make it into Earl Grey, motherfucker.
He's just having a meeting with like a diplomat from another race, and just nodding, like unbuttons his pants. Lets him down, takes a squat. The guy starts to be like, no, keep talking. You keep talking. And just takes a shit right there.
Yeah, we're planning a banquet for your people to welcome you to the Intergalactic Planetary Federation. I want you to know in advance that this banquet has been entirely replicated from my shit.
Captain, what are you doing? I'm going number 2, number 1. Okay, so we've got to run that one into the ground. Dan asks a rather volatile question. Which of you is the general consensus choice of favorite author between all of you?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I know this could have been volatile if Dan had actually taken a moment to actually word it in a way that was like comprehensible.
Or if we gave a fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like. I've read everyone now, and I like everybody for different reasons. So
yeah.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I think I've read everybody on the podcast, and everybody brings something different to the table. It's, and I think that's actually pretty awesome. Like, knowing that, like, especially with Shingles, like, is a good example. Every month when you pick up a different Shingles book by a different one of us, you're going to get a whole different experience. It's mostly all going to be awful, but it's going to be a different awful every time. Mm-hmm. And that's magical.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has their strengths, and there's nobody on the podcast that I don't think is an excellent writer. Well, other than me. Because I'm not allowed to say how great I think I am, because people call me an asshole. So I lie a lot.
Never stop self-promoting. Also, don't you dare be proud of your work.
Right, exactly. But, I mean, like, Steve's one of the funniest motherfuckers any of us know.
Aww.
Drew's the wordiest motherfucker anyone's ever met.
It's true. It's true.
I rip off other famous urban fantasy writers like nobody's business. We've all got the shit that we do really well.
But you're not. But here's the thing. But what separates you is you're not obvious about it.
Until you
just told everybody.
Yeah.
When you're not obvious about it, it's not called stealing. It's called being influenced by.
Oh, god damn it! I always forget about that.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, I mean, Joe is an awesome adventure writer. Bevan can just go to places the rest of us would like. We'll just look at and say like no, and just nope the fuck out of it. He can go there and walk out smelling like a rose.
I've never picked up a Robert Bevan book and had any idea where the fuck it was going, and I love that about Robert Bevan books.
And sometimes you close it and put it down, and you look in the mirror and you're like, what just happened? And the mirror says back to you, I'm not sure, but it'll be okay.
Also, you drank a lot of Kirkland Light while you were reading that book.
It's like where your own reflection looks back and says, I'm disgusted with you.
It's not even talking to you. It's just packing its shit. It finally walks out a door.
Shaking its head disapprovingly the whole way.
Yeah, I think when I joined the podcast, I mean, I knew Bevan, But I kind of assumed it'd probably be kind of a clique of authors doing similar things. And after reading it, it's like, everybody's quite confidently doing and owning their own thing. So, yeah, there's lots of different reasons to like the Authors and Dragons authors.
I think our one uniting is we all like to mix the ha-has in with the boom-booms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all like to blow up a lot of shit, and we all like to make a lot of jokes.
That is my afternoon that's my idea of a perfect afternoon. Laughing and watching shit blow up.
Yeah.
So 4th of July coming up. Big day for you.
Yeah, I think that's the question we should probably turn back on our listeners. Who's your favourite Authors and Dragons author? Read every single book to find out.
Yeah, when we all retire, then you can tell us. But until then, you have to buy all our shit.
Yeah, you don't have to tell us. You just have to buy all the books and read them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even Topher Nightshade, you lazy bastards.
Do you guys have... I know Drew has talked about Topher Nightshade more than once. I have Genesis, my YA superhero thing that never ever did enough to even warrant me finishing the sequel. Do you guys have stuff that you started writing or that you wrote one of and it just sat there and died?
I want to be clear, Topher was always a standalone. I knew that was not launching a series.
Yeah, you're a better man than I. Mine was supposed to be a series, and I was like, fuck.
Well, I mean, I just released Devil Hunters, which is the sequel of Bigfoot Hunters that I started 6 years ago. I mean, it had nothing to do with the fact that didn't want to write it or so. It was just more just delays and working on other shit. I probably have at least 6 or 7 stories on my hard drive that that I started and just said this is a really good idea, but then a week later I was like, this is a less good idea.
I've got Fire into the Dark is probably the book I am most proud of, and I think probably has the most kind of unique tone to me, and it is by far my least successful book. People who do read it, tend to kind of like it, but no one reads it. So.
That's what Pairs and Perils is for me. When people read it, they love it, but man, getting them to read it.
Yeah. One of my caravan stories falls under that. The Necromancer's Wife. I am really proud of that story. I think it's, even outside of all the fucking that goes on in it, I think there's an awesome plot. And it's just one of those books that I'm just I'm super proud of it, and I'm the only one.
Yeah, Genesis isn't like that for me. I wrote it. It's not even close to my best, and it sells just like I would expect that to be. I thought it was great when I wrote it, but I don't even carry it to cons anymore. There's 4 copies on my shelf that are probably just going to sit there until I die.
Well, I mean, that is an interesting thing. If you think of all of us have been in this business for a while. If you think of how far you've grown as a writer, and sometimes it's cool when you have readers point out, they're technically this book, or structurally or whatever, or mechanically this book is just light years ahead of something you wrote 5 years ago when you had no idea what the fuck you were doing, and you still have no idea what the fuck you're doing, but you know a bit. You're a bit less stupid in what the fuck you're doing,
I think it's good to have a few that don't sell early on. It kind of teaches you that failure isn't the end of the world, and also reminds you not to assume when you're budgeting that every book will succeed.
Yeah.
Those are good lessons to learn early when the stakes are low.
Oh my god, so many writers do not want to hear that shit. They want to be like, here's the first book I just shit out. Where's my $1 million? And it's like, dude, you're in the wrong fucking business if you think it works that way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It took me until 4 years. My 4th year doing this was the first year I actually earned more than I did at my cubicle job. And that's not counting that I had benefits and stuff. Because if you factor that shit in, then I did not do it in the 4th year.
I never have. I make enough to make a living, but I was pretty overpaid at my old job. So then if we add benefits on top of that, yeah, hell no. I haven't come close. Well, last year was the closest I've come to earning as a writer my last year's day job salary, but I didn't get there, and probably, yeah, not looking like I'll make it this year either.
And that's with the support of Oprah Winfrey. So take that, dreamers.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Oh yeah, sorry, whatever. Some American
It's okay.
popular
She
woman.
doesn't listen to this podcast. Please, God, Whoopi, don't listen to this podcast.
Which one was in the color purple?
Both of them.
All right, we see what stems my confusion.
Wow.
But Whoopi was not in A Wrinkle in Time.
You really reached deep for that one, Steve.
Yeah, I think we need to back the fuck away from that one. Although, Steve, let me tell you, that is a good lead into our next question, where Eduardo asks, "What is your best Yo Mama joke?"
Why is that a good lead?
I don't know.
It's a good lead. Yeah. No, I understand why it is a good lead, but only because I've made things uncomfortable. I don't like jokes, which I understand sounds unusual for a comedy writer, but I think there's kind of an art. There are many ways of being funny, and one of those ways is remembering jokes and knowing when to tell jokes, and that kind of relies on being able to remember jokes and having enough charisma to tell them, which I have a terrible memory and a distinct lack of charisma, so I'm not a good joke guy.
I love terrible jokes, like the bad ones, not the like offensive ones, just the shitty ones.
I can't even remember the bad ones.
Okay. Hey everybody, welcome to the Church of Smash Mouth. Please open your books to Somebody Once Told Me.
Oh God, that's
Yeah,
awful.
fucking terrible, but I love it.
I'll admit that back when like the whole Yo Mama snaps was like, was big on the internet, I used to spend there was a couple of websites that just had hundreds upon hundreds, and I would sit there for way too long reading them. And I do remember there is one that is my favorite, and it's Yo Mama is so old that I told her to act her age and the bitch died.
See, that's great. I'm not devaluing the ability to remember and drop at an appropriate time a good joke. I think it's an incredibly great skill. I can't do it. So I could not remember a Yo Mama joke. Somebody started getting in a Yo Mama joke fight with me. I'd be like, well, your mama's so fat. I'm kind of concerned about her. Maybe you should talk to her.
Yes, because diabetes is a real issue, and
You know she hasn't been doing well since your dad passed. You should spend more time with her.
You should call your mother.
Just like destroy the person on a human level. Oh God.
Wow. Yeah. Fuck, I need a drink now.
Rick, why don't you tee up our next question while John pours
Sure.
himself a cold one?
That's why I don't do jokes.
all right, we got a couple that are strictly for Bevan. I think we're going to pass on those. All right, Brett asks, while Joe is very active in European combat styles, are any of you interested in learning to fight with a specific weapon or style?
Oh God.
I think I get a genetic bonus to a broken beer bottle. I come from a long line
Hereditary
of trash, and I have to imagine some of that's baked into the DNA.
I get a hereditary bonus to headbutting things, which is, in the DNA.
I mean,
Go ahead.
other than my rapier sharp wit.
Actually, I took Taekwondo
No.
for several years. And I mean, this one school I went to was cool because once a week they had weapons night. Except I'm really glad they would usually give us like practice weapons, because nunchucks are fun as all hell. But damn, you do not want to hit yourself in the forehead with one, because you are going down.
I've smashed myself in the ankle with nunchucks before. They're a lot of fun, but they're a harsh mistress.
So our
Nunchucks are a harsh
mistresses,
mistress.
just saying.
That's a T-shirt right there.
I did taekwondo as well. I think I did a little, not like I put any effort into it. I was kind of more interested. I've always been a big fan of kung fu movies, and I've always been a big fan of the flashy stuff. So I was interested in kind of learning that for fun. I think if I was going to learn a useful martial art, it'd probably be either boxing for the fitness or something like Krav Maga for the practicality of it.
What disappoints me is that I grew up watching kung fu movies, and now I'm like really into the Badlands and stuff like that. And what disappoints me is like watching that, going, why can't that be real? Because you know something,
Yeah.
yes, okay, there's discipline, there's katas, but you know something, you're never going to be able to teach me to jump 30 feet up in a tree and punch and punch a boulder in half.
Yeah, that's why I quit martial arts. I just thought, these are things I have to learn by myself. So.
Yeah.
Jumping 30 feet up a tree.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like, you're not going to teach me in this class. I clearly need to go and learn that for myself. So
I just started shooting things at a young age because I grew up in the country. So,
My favorite weapon that I have here, and which I've often said that if somebody breaks into my house in the middle of the night, they're going to find me. They're going to find me at the top of my stairs, wearing nothing but a pair of boxer shorts and screaming while holding my Klingon batleth.
nice.
Yes, and if you were able to see that sight and not run screaming, chances are you have earned my stuff.
yeah.
Just imagine that Robert, like, oh, this is how I die. I die weird.
just passively accepting it. I always knew this would happen.
This is exactly how I drew it up.
That's one of those things where you're standing there and as death blow comes, at least you're saying, at least I'm going to have a cool headstone.
Think about it, unusual weapons. I think in my younger days, I taped a couple of carving knives to my nunchucks, just because, not for any practical reason, but I think I was drunk and I thought it was funny. It's like if I tried to tackle a burglar in that instance, I think it would have been successful in driving the burglar away, because nobody wants to be around a guy who's just like cut his own wrists off. So
Yeah.
That's one of those weapons that, like, in a movie or when you're drunk sounds like the most awesome thing on the planet.
And then you end up with a nunchuck and a throwing star sticking out of your head.
I think the last time I saw somebody drunkenly operating nunchucks, he was actually a very talented nunchucker. I don't know if that's the right word. What is the word for somebody who operates nunchucks?
Idiot.
Well, yeah, he was a very talented idiot, and he came in, but he was hammered, and he just sort of like came to visit us. This is a long time ago, and it was about 1 a.m. and he came in, and he's just like, oh, and I bought some nunchucks, and then he just like got 2 pairs of nunchucks out and started flaying them around. And we're like, wow, this is great. And then he let go of one, and it just slammed into the wall by my head, and I thought, this is less great. This is rapidly becoming not great. So yeah, nunchucks, I don't think they're really a weapon. They're more kind of an incident.
An incident.
Yeah.
An incident waiting to happen.
Sometimes we forget just how British you are.
No, we really
you get a
don't.
call to 911 from Steve. There's been an incident. In the meantime, there's like somebody's head like splattered all over the friggin' room.
Well, it is it?
I hate to be a
There's been an incident. He doesn't look entirely well.
We had what I would classify as a whoopsie.
if you're twirling nunchucks with kitchen knives taped to them around and someone dies, it's not an accident, because why the fuck were you doing that, you idiot? It's an incident. There's been an entirely predictable incident, officer. Please come around.
Really, I should have called you as soon as I saw the knives on the nunchucks. There was no way this was not going to happen.
The funny thing, though, is it'd be probably really hard to convict you of first-degree murder, because who's going to believe that you're competent enough to tie knives to a nunchuck and then actually use it on somebody?
Yeah.
That sort of thing only ever happens, ironically, by accident. So maybe it's
no, Your Honor. I meant to kill him. Yeah, manslaughter.
Give me credit for this! It's the one cool thing they did. Now it's gone.
been misclassed as an incident forevermore.
Jacob Odell asks, do you guys buy each other's books or do you give each other free copies?
Both.
Yeah, a little bit of both.
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we see each other
Yeah.
in person, we'll usually trade some copies. But if Rick has a new release that I want to pick up, I'm just gonna grab it on Kindle.
Yeah.
I mean, same here. I like
Usually
supporting
buy-
you. Yeah. I like supporting you guys. I mean, every once in a while we'll do something like, hey guys, here's an early version of a story. Do you guys want to take a look? And they're like, hey, sure, that's fine. But I mean, yeah, if something comes out, it's like, hey, yeah, I want to support you guys.
I do get to read all the Kindle books for all of the Shingles books for free because I format them. So I do the layout, so I read them all.
I usually read them before they come out anyway, just because I want to see what fucked up shit everybody's come up with.
And make sure we're not trying to do the same fucked up shit.
Yeah, I don't worry about that so much. I have faith in you guys.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll ever come up with the same kind of monkey penis orientated book. Or
Yeah, I mean, John and I both have books where people die via butt plug, but it's pretty different,
Honestly,
Yeah.
that might be fun to do sometime. Is like I'll start from the same prompt and then just do like a 5,000 word story, and then throw them all together as this is one idea grown in 6 different directions.
We'll auction, and we could auction off the prompt.
Oh, that would be fun.
Ooh, I kind of like that idea.
Says the publisher, i.e. the money-grubbing fuck, says, let's get as much money out of this shit as we can.
So yeah, to answer that, I both read them while they're free and usually pick them up when they're launching anyway.
Yeah.
As should you, dear listener.
Indeed.
Yeah, and there's also seeing each other at a con and and getting an autographed book is always cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like at the end of Con Carolinas, we swapped shingles, which isn't nearly as flesh contacty as it sounds.
It does sound a bit grim when you put it like that.
Yeah.
But our friend Rachel went home with a whole case of shingles.
So did Gail Martin's husband.
Oh yeah.
He got one of every released copy of Shingles except Rick's, because Rick left early on Sunday before Larry went around buying all the Shingles.
Oh, I'm sorry, Larry. If you're listening, I owe you one.
He's not. It's fine.
No. Oh well.
But I believe Rachel has the only one of yours, right, Rick? The proof
Yes.
copy.
Yes, Rachel has a one-of-a-kind proof copy of Jimmy Headshot.
Rachel has maximum shingles.
The maximum amount of possible shingles for now. Audiobook coming later in 2018, probably.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
Assuming Tantor doesn't run screaming into the night.
Still with us so far. They've got a PDF, so they're gonna bail. They're gonna bail soon.
Doesn't mean they opened it and read it yet.
Yeah.
They still got to find someone to read it.
We haven't heard screaming yet, so they probably haven't read it yet.
Oh.
Nice. All right. I think we might have answered something like this before. If so, but Casey asks, if you were to make a drink based on your character, what would be in it and what would it be named?
Have we done this before?
I seem to recall, we talk about drinking all the time, so I don't know.
I don't think we've had a cocktail based on the character.
Yeah, that feels close but unique.
I think we've had what would the character drink.
Oh, maybe that was it.
Yeah.
The answer is usually everything.
Yeah.
All right, so cocktail based on a character.
Fandingo's drink would have to be something really fruity.
I think Brandon's drink would be Perrier water with some protein powder in it. Just something aggressively kind of health douche.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure just dipping a cup in the toilet would satisfy a Silas drink.
As long as the toilet was filled.
For Gunther, I will go with one of my old favorites, an Adios Motherfucker. It's a Long Island, except you add Blue Curacao and substitute Coke for Sprite. So it's bright blue, and it'll get you fucked up.
I was just say, for that matter, a perfect drink for any of us would probably be a Mind Eraser.
No, that's for the listeners.
That's what I was trying to think of. What the fuck goes in that? Because holy God, I drank a lot of those in Birmingham one time and don't remember much.
Oh, is that a Kahlua one? That looks good.
Yeah.
Oh, I do love a Kahlua drink. Let's see. A Mind Eraser is... Oh, Jesus Christ, it's making me put in a birth date.
2 ounces of vodka, 2 ounces of Kahlua, and 2 ounces of club soda.
Yep. Vodka, Kahlua, club soda.
Seems quite straightforward.
Yeah, I got shit-housed on those in Alabama.
Never tried club soda and Kahlua together. That's an interesting combo.
Well, the idea behind Mind Erasers is you're sucking them down so fast you're really not tasting anything. That Mind Erasers are not a sipping or nursing drink.
Yeah.
I had no idea that there was Kahlua in that, and I probably drank 10 of them that weekend.
You want to know one of my favorite drinks to make at home, or if I'm feeling spendy get at a bar? I call it a Thin Mint. You do 1 part Kahlua, 1 part Bailey's Irish Cream, and a half part Rumpelmans. And then you shake with ice and strain out. I swear to God, it tastes just like the Girl Scout Thin Mint cookies.
I think I've tried that before, under a different name. But yeah, that's nice.
No one ever thinks Rumpelmans can be used for anything good, but man, people will tear through that fucking drink.
The opposite side of that equivalent, while we're talking about candy flavors, is the Orange Smartie, which I think, I might be wrong, is vodka, Tia Maria, Kahlua, and orange juice. And it's not particularly strong, but it tastes like an Orange Smartie. So if that's what you like, get on that.
Yeah.
So after the 10th one, you're just fucked up.
Yeah, the best kind of cocktails are the ones that don't taste like they've got any alcohol in them, and then you wake up the next day and you've made all kinds of terrible mistakes, and then you realise that they're nowhere near as tasty on the way back up. I think those are the best kind of cocktails.
I think amaretto sours are will do that to me, because those go down really easy. You really don't taste the whole lot, and they catch up to you real fast.
I'm like that with Long Island iced teas. I know it's a conventional douchebag cocktail, but for maximum booze with minimum awareness of booze, a well-made Long Island iced tea is the way to go. But a poorly made Long Island iced tea just tastes like absolute shit. So,
but it'll still get you fucked up.
Yeah, it's got to go for it.
That's where I learned the adios motherfucker was. They used to do 250 Long Islands most weekend nights at this bar near college. And I can't stand Long Islands, but I love an adios motherfucker. And if you flirt a little, they'll just make them for you. And yeah, it was fucking good way to get destroyed for $10.
Destroyed for $10. Nice.
That's like the title of Drew's college memoir. Destroyed for $10.
It would not be a wholly inaccurate title.
There we go. If everyone ever makes a cocktail about Drew's character, which is, I guess, just Drew, then Destroyed for $10, I think is the working title for that.
Okay. I'm going to flip to the other end and see what we got here. Steven has one. He says he's still blown away that Hartness never saw Big Trouble in Little China prior to the Patreon podcast. What other underrated movies do each of you consider to be must-see materials?
Oh. Are we talking like old school or like a modern?
It just says movie, so your choice.
I have, ever since finally seeing The Last Dragon, I have been blown away that I had never seen The Last Dragon. And I feel like I'm going to be rewatching that one pretty soon, just because I was like, good God, there's so much cultural touchstones in here that I never knew I was missing.
I should watch that because I played the fuck out of the soundtrack to that movie when I was a kid. I loved that soundtrack when it was new, and I think I got it from Columbia House Tape Club or something. And I've never seen the movie.
That's the next film analysis podcast then.
Oh,
Getting
definitely.
John to watch The Last Dragon.
I am
Awesome.
down for that, actually. That or a riff tracks.
Well, I'm always good for the make your friend watch movies that you think they should have seen and they never have, because I don't watch many movies. So I probably just haven't seen it.
Pretty much, I think I spent a long time building up a filmography at home of films that most people haven't seen but should see because I think they should see it. Stuff like Society in Brazil. I would suggest for a modern one, and this is purely based on the fact that I think it's underrated, because we all know how I feel about 2016 remakes. We won't get into that. But there was a 2016 remake that was actually very true to the spirit of the original, while still being fresh and a well-executed comedy with a charismatic cast, and that was the Vacation reboot. And I'm surprised that wasn't more popular than it was. I thought it was really good. So, yeah, I've got to say something positive about a remake on tape. So that's out there for everyone to hear.
I didn't realize they actually remade it.
Yeah, it was Ed Helms, right? And Christina Applegate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I saw that one.
Huh.
I got why not a lot of people went to see it, but it was
Well,
it was good. But Ed Helms, I don't think it should carry a movie yet.
I thought his understated kind of approach to it actually worked in his favour, especially since he was kind of across from what's his face, Super Hunk, Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah,
Hemsworth?
the Hemsworth parts were good. I don't know. It wasn't a bad movie, but because the Vacation brand is like so tattered by this point, it kind of had to be a great movie to like bring that out of the ashes.
I don't think to me it would be like, this is the movie everyone's got to see. I just think as a reboot for what it was, it was very successful in capturing the spirit of a movie that it's like 30 years old now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be.
And while still being kind of modern and relevant. So I appreciate it for that, and I thought it was kind of like, considering a lot of the shit we get now and a lot of the shit that is made on popular franchises, I thought perhaps the movie should have been more widely received than it was. It was, to me, the kind of sincere comedy remake that certain other films from 2016 could have learned a lot from.
Oh, I've got a more modern one that I absolutely consider essential viewing, and I'm daily furious that it didn't get the attention it deserved. Trick or Treat from, I want to say, like 2007. It's a horror movie, and it's an anthology, and it's fucking incredible. And it kills me that like it wasn't revered the minute it came out, because it's so good and like tightly scripted and funny, and it has a tremendous cast.
What's it called?
Trick or Treat. 2000.
Trick or Treat.
Yep.
All right, so I thought you just misspoke. Trick or Treat. It's like Toys R Us.
Exactly.
All right, cool. I think I have two. One is an old one, from 1983, I believe. You're the Hunter from the Future, which is it's just a terrible movie, but it's a super ambitious movie. Like, there's nothing about this movie that's good, but as a result, everything about this movie is great. And from a more modern perspective, and this is, I don't think I've ever met anybody who's seen this damn film, but it's a film called Necroville. It's essentially a low, and I don't mean low, I mean non-existent budget, kind of Ghostbusters. But you could tell the people who made it just had no fucks to give, and as a result, it is funny as shit. Like there's this one guy who spends the entire movie just drinking holy water, and then of course when they need him the most, he takes a piss on a vampire.
Excellent. That sounds in our wheelhouse. What's that one called? I'm going to make a note of that.
Necroville.
Necroville. Yeah, I'm going to watch that.
I mean, we're talking awful production values, but it is funny as shit.
You see, I don't mind if its heart is in the right place. I don't mind awful production values. I don't mind missteps if I know what it's going for and I think it's sincerely kind of got there on its own terms. I was watching a movie called The Void the other day, which it's kind of everything that horror movie fans say they want. It's got a real John Carpenter vibe. It's quite ambitious in its scope of what it tackles, like in the supernatural. It's got all these great practical effects. I don't think it's a fantastic movie, but it's kind of, if you're the sort of person who complains about what modern horror movies have become, you should watch The Void, simply because it tries to be what you want it to be quite sincerely, without trying to be, which I think again is what I liked about the Vacation remake. It was very sincere in what it was, whereas I thought it was kind of
Sincerity?
Yeah.
I'm with you. Sincerity counts for a lot. Like, we frequently reference The Darkness Rising in a really positive light, and that movie does not have good production values by any measure. And let's be honest, the cast is doing their best, but it's not as though they are all Hollywood A-listers with years and years of the dedication and coaching and experience that would confer that level of talent. But they are working hard, and they are doing their best, and they put on a good show that really radiates genuine love. And that kind of overcomes all shortcomings.
Yeah, things like The Void, things like Vacation, you can feel the genuine respect they have for the original material, unlike certain other remakes that I'm not going to mention in this podcast.
But you just keep dancing up to the line with this one, Steve.
Yeah, well, I'm on my fifth beer, Drew. I'm nearly at fighting beers.
Is that the fighting beer?
It's the fighting beer. Well, only in that specific context. But luckily, I only have 5 beers. So,
all right, Rick, what do you got for us?
All right, so we got a serious gaming question here. Alex says, my fiance is going to start playing in a D&D campaign for the first time ever in a couple of weeks. Any recommendations you guys have to make the first time experience enjoyable for someone that I literally have explained what D20s are within the last couple of months?
I can only speak from my experience, which is to join a podcast with several established comedy writers. I think that's the kind of best way to get into Dungeons & Dragons. But I understand that not everyone can do that, so I guess I'm speaking from privilege there.
Well, has she listened to every episode of us fucking around? Because then it's pretty obvious that you don't have to have a goddamn idea about what you're doing. As long as one person kind of has a clue, the rest of you can just fuck off for a couple of years and it'll be fine.
That is a good point. I learned everything I know about D&D from listening to this podcast.
Sometimes in real time.
I'm not 100% sure that we've explained to Steve what a D20 is yet, so...
I get by.
He'll figure it out eventually.
There's a macro. It's fine.
I would say, I'll do actual advice, for a new player, unless they really want it, I really try not to drill too far down into like the nitty-gritty, the logistics and systems. Because that's better learned kind of as you go, aside from like the basics, you rolled the d20. But when you're building their character with them, because you obviously should be helping them build their first character, don't try to go too far into the mechanics and everything. It can get confusing. Really start from a conceptual standpoint. Explain what the different races are culturally, explain what the different classes are, and kind of let them make a character that feels right for them to play, that they'll have fun playing. Because there's something sort of special about that first character that you make before you understand the systems and how to game them, when you are truly just making a character purely on, I want to be this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you got a good point there. It's like focus on the storytelling and stuff. And I would say, before you ease them into a group, take them on 1 or 2 solo adventures. And here I'm going to step away from like sincerity and say, and since it's your fiance, make a rule that every time you lose a hit point, you lose a piece of clothing. But
we did the drink for every hit point lost once, and that got fucking disgusting.
Yeah. Oh man, it's like God. Yeah, we should never do that because that's the night like Drew like pulls out the Tarrasque.
Well, the worst part is we were like an epic party at the time, so we could take a shitload of hit points off without missing a beat.
Oh goddamn! Yeah, that would kill you.
I would probably also say gauge the other party members and see if you think that actually she'll get along with them first. Because sticking a round peg in a square hole just because like she's your fiance or so, that's just going to make it miserable for her. And it's going to make it miserable for everybody. So maybe make sure that she. I mean, hopefully you're all friends. You can hang around and shit. But if not, like maybe invite her to sit on a game as it maybe an NPC or so. Before you throw her to the wolves.
Or just throw them straight to the wolves. That's what happened to me. I turned out fine.
Well, actually, here's a good one that, like, I guess if any of us ever get killed, might be something. But Christopher asks, he says, I'm GMing a level 12 game or level 10 game right now, and I just had a player join the game that's brand new to D&D. Do you guys have any advice on how to deal with the experience difference in the players?
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it has more to do with the attitude of the players than it does the experience of the players. If you've got a group that's all min-maxing and rules lawyering and trying to eke every bit of advantage out of the rules, then a new player is going to come in and be completely fucking lost. If you have a bunch of people that are just hanging out, drinking beer, having fun, doing stupid shit, they could be level 15 and drop a pretty new player in and jump right in and do stupid shit, and just have somebody sitting there to kind of talk to him off the side, like, yeah, it doesn't work like that, but do this. And
well, it also helps. I mean, here's the thing: there's the difference, like. There's plenty of like power gamers and they like know the rules and shit, but like they come in different. Like some are going to be like very cool with a new player and be because they're like, hey, I'm the expert. I'm going to take you under my wing and show you. And others are just going to be assholes of like, how come you weren't born knowing this shit?
Right?
Yeah, your group determines a lot of it. I mean, my first group I ever played with was super helpful. Like I was the new player playing with more experienced people. Like I came in completely fresh. And they were all really cool about like walking me through stuff, pausing the game to be like, oh, okay, this is how a skill works. This is how, this is the dice you roll for this. And it made D&D so much more fun and interesting to me because I understood it and it was very communal. And I've heard horror stories from people who had the opposite experience, and it can wreck a game. So as DM, you can't necessarily control your group, but you can sit them down and set the expectation of, hey, we have a new player. You were all new players once too. Don't be dickholes. Help this guy learn like somebody took the time to help you.
I think it's also up to the DM to explain, I guess, the composition of the party and how things play. Because I know, I was in a group one time and we were like trying out new players, and we had this one guy sit in with us, and let's just say we weren't exactly we weren't an evil party, we weren't a good party either. We were just kind of like neutral, doing our own shit, and like he seemed like he fit in fine, but afterwards he went to the DM and he's like, I can't play with your friends because they're all sewer scum.
I don't disbelieve him.
But I feel if the DM had maybe like given him an inkling of, okay, this is the type of players you're jumping in with, if you're playing a lawful good ranger, you might not have a great time. I think the DM could have like given a little bit of a hint there.
Yeah, I mean, as a DM, the kind of players you have, and when you invite someone into that group, it should be with the expectation that this person will merge. If you have a group of people who like drinking beer and having fun, a min-maxing rule lawyering person is not going to enjoy themselves, nor will they be enjoyable to the party.
Right. Yeah, that's a lot of what I was trying to get at, is that the makeup of the party is way more important than what any individual really knows about how to play the game. And that's where we all got really lucky, because a lot of us didn't know each other before we started playing, so we really lucked out that we were all a compatible flavor of stupid.
I think we knew real quick within the first episode what kind of bullshit this was going to be and whether you were in or out.
I was going to say, the second we saw the well, I think we knew what was happening.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, it was one of those. It was one of those things. I mean, I think I've been in a lot of gaming groups, and like, I can count very low, like, which ones have not devolved into total fucking disasters. And it's the majority of them, because there's always going to be a couple people there, one or two, who like you're just like, God damn, why don't you leave? And maybe this would be a good group. So when you find a group where you're like, I like everybody here, you hold on to that shit.
Fuck yeah.
All right, moving on. Leland asks, moving away from D&D for a second, do you guys have any specific time of day that you write, and did you have any writing rituals?
Oh, God, no. I wish I did. Until you guys buy a lot more of my books, I've still got to work around a full-time job and a family that I can't afford to abandon, so... No, I write when I can, yeah.
Yeah. I find that I am most productive mid-morning to early afternoon from like 10 to 2 as far as making new words, so that's my best writing time, but I do a lot of other shit, so sometimes it doesn't happen when I want it to happen.
I'm a morning guy. Like, I wake up, get my coffee, take my dog out to poop, and then I am kind of at my computer until I hit my quota.
Yeah, I mean, my best writing days are the ones where usually after the kids get out to school and I take a shower, I'm like sitting at my desk around by 9, and like, if I can start writing around then, those are usually my best writing days. If like, if I went up like hemming and hawing or being distracted and like I don't get till later, it's just not going to go very well. I mean, as far as rituals go, I guess like, looking at what I wrote the day before and like spending a half an hour crying maybe, but
I think it's the same with anything, really. Not just writing, but in pretty much any job. I used to work shifts, and when you have to work evenings and you've spent the whole day kind of doing what you want and then have to go to work, it's just not motivating at all. I find with most things, get up, get ready, get it done. That works for me. So
yeah, I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, I mean, as long as I get the words done, I don't really give a shit when or where I got them done.
Yeah.
Just get it.
All right.
Yeah, that's pretty much the gist.
Yeah. Yeah, at the end of the day, you can't sell a story that's not finished, so.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some writers might disagree. I've seen some stories that like seem to end mid-paragraph, and then the end. What?
We haven't managed to sell stories that aren't written yet.
I guess that's sort of what an advance is sometimes.
Yeah.
Guess you could just fill out the rest with a load of badly translated machine text and go from there. That seems to work for some people. Maybe copyright the extremely generic title you gave your book. Yeah.
I'm proud to say that my trademark for Cock Thunder has not gone through yet. All those Cock Thunder books are coming down, baby, coming down. That and Dick Sweat. I'm staking out a territory.
Very specific territory.
I want to read the the crossover Cock Thunder and Dick Sweat.
No, Cock Thunder versus Dick Sweat.
And then the harem novel, Cock Thunder, Dick Sweat, and Nut Musk.
Ooh, I'd have to talk to his owner. I don't know if I can get rights for Nut Musk. That guy's protective.
Three private dicks, one mystery. The crossover you've all been waiting for.
Or the one no one has.
Well, I'm waiting for it now.
It's like I come back, hey guys, you remember those joke books I wrote? They've outsold everything I have by a factor of 10.
I've changed my name to Drew Tingle.
So I'm done with all those long books now. Just doing the Cock Thunder and Dick Sweat series. Yeah. Anyway,
it's where you wake up and realize all that work you've put into everything else, and now it's like, this is what I shall be known for.
Like, well, Somehow this car made of cocaine will have to comfort me.
I feel better already. I only have 3 tires now, but I feel better already.
All right. You have time for some more? Or?
Yeah, we can do a couple more.
Yeah.
It's an interlude.
Okay.
We're packing them in.
We can go mental.
All right. Well, Shlomi asks, will there be a point in the future where you guys do international conventions?
Hopefully.
Talk to international conventions and get them to invite us.
Yeah.
And pay for it.
I want to just turn up in somewhere like China and just like relay our bullshit to a bunch of incredibly impassive people who just don't understand us at all. I mean, that would make me happy. It wouldn't make anyone in China happy, but it'd make me happy.
It would make you happy up until the point that we're standing up there in front of a firing squad going, yeah, good idea, Steve.
Well, I don't know how well it'll translate.
Beats the fuck out of us getting eaten by a bear while naked.
Well, only marginally, John. I mean, those are both good ways to go out, and I haven't ruled either of them out.
It's better for the bear.
In my career plan. But yeah, we could just like go to some, even just some country where they don't really speak English or understand what D&D is or what a Brandon Firemaster is. And I think that would be an interesting experience.
Well, we did just go to North Carolina. They don't really speak English here.
No one really understands what a Brandon Firemaster is. We've got that video of me dancing and that woman in the background. She did not understand what a Brandon Firemaster is.
No.
I think that at that point she understood exactly what a Brandon Thighmaster was, and the look on her face told you exactly what a Brandon Thighmaster was.
It was kind of a look of dawning horror. That's right, yeah.
She was definitely reconsidering all of her life choices at that moment.
I want to bring that moment to the world stage. I don't think that's too terrible an ambition.
I look at it this way, you can really get eaten by a bear in just about any one of the states, but how often are you going to cause an international incident?
That's a good point. You got to take those opportunities where you find them. If you can, cause an international incident with a bear, then that's the best of all possible worlds.
Yes.
But
and the great thing is, if Steve calls it an international incident, it's really, really bad.
Yeah, Steve calls it an international incident. The rest of us call it nuclear fucking winter.
Yeah, it's like Chernobyl melted down, and Steve was there like, there's been a minor incident, it's...
I taped some nukes to my nunchucks. It didn't work out as I thought it might. So yeah, I think that is we definitely should do an international convention. It won't end well for anyone.
Ryan asks, if you don't die in these Toreg Forsaken Islands, will you ever return and find the true secrets of the well? Oh, and can I get a fuck you for posterity?
Fuck you, posterity.
Yeah, fuck you for posterity.
Fuck you right in your posterity.
So, that's up to you guys.
It's not really, is it?
It is.
By the time
You guys
no one's really
this
steering
crazy.
here. Yeah, but that's like if 5 chimps are in a Land Rover and each one of them has a hand on the wheel, is that steering, Drew, or is that still just chaos?
That is a marvelous metaphor, Steve. That's steering.
One hand on the wheel, one hand flinging shit.
I mean, it's technically controlling the direction of the vehicle, but I don't know if steering is the word I would use. But no, I think I could see us returning to the well. But Bevan is a very deliberately obtuse character. I could see us returning to the well and him just saying, "Nah, I don't feel like it."
Yeah, at that point, the well is glowing. There's lightning flash in the sky, and he's like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
You'll find some other seemingly innocuous piece of decoration to murder himself on.
I mean, needless to say, if Drew wants us to go back to the well, all he has to do is to tell Klaus that he shouldn't go back to the well.
That's a good point, yeah. Can you ever really go back? I mean...
Yeah, truth be told, I think if I even say the word well around Bevan, he's just going to break into the ocean.
He asks you a question, you just start like, well, and it's like, yeah, I dive in it.
Well, I'm in it! I'm going! Still no swim score. Don't care.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time in the early going trying to die.
I like to think that's still what you're doing, based on the way you play.
Good point.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see why it might be interpreted that way, yeah. But
Wow, that just got dark. The entire game is one long suicide pact.
That is, that definitely checks out based on playstyle.
Here's an easy one from Gene. Kiss or Twisted Sister?
Kiss.
yeah, Kiss.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Kiss. There's some good Twisted Sister, but I think in terms of overall album, I'll go Kiss.
I'm gonna be the dissent. I'm gonna be the dissenting vote and say Twisted Sister, only because Kiss is really just less a band and more just a money machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But they do
That's
have...
what I aspire to.
Yeah.
yeah.
It wasn't really a wrong answer.
I think if you made an album of the best Kiss songs and the best Twisted Sister songs, then Kiss would probably be punching above its weight in terms of good songs.
Also, Twisted Kister is an amazing name for an album. Somebody make that happen.
Twisted Kister. There we go. We found a compromise.
Twisted Keister would be an amazing name for porn.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd click on that, John. That seems potentially horrifying.
Lies. You know you would.
Well, I might, but it'd be more morbid curiosity.
Curiosity clicks are a thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair enough.
I just did a con with Dee Snider.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I did one day of a 3-day horror con because I was booked at another con on the Saturday, and they wanted me to do a panel on Sunday, so I was like, sure, fuck it. And they gave me 4 hours to sell books at a table, and Dee Snider looks just like he did back in the day, only without the makeup. And it was like, huh, you did all the drugs. Well played, sir.
All right. Stephanie has a pretty good question. Do you have any favorite literary or song references, either to use yourself or to see referenced? She goes on to say, I just finished the audiobook for Pears and Perils, and Thunder references The Lady or the Tiger, which was a short story we read in middle school, and it just stuck with me.
First off, thanks for reading Pears and Perils.
See, Drew? Somebody's reading it.
I appreciate it. I love that book.
I think I use a lot, especially in the Doomsayer Journeys, there's a lot of references to kind of recognised sci-fi and fantasy and action movie tropes. I think my favourite one is when I referenced in Book 3, I think it was Book 3, The Mad Emperor, I referenced the I've seen things you people wouldn't believe speech, but I ended it instead of saying all these moments will be lost in time like tears in rain, I said all these moments will be lost in time like a fart in a hurricane. And that's probably the best reference I've ever made. I'm extremely proud of that job.
I disagree,
good.
Steve. I think the best reference you've ever made, and if I had to pick a favorite, it would be in Brandon Thighmaster, the whole, if you go seeking revenge, make sure you dig 2 graves, one for your enemy and one that is also for your enemy in case you kick him in 2.
Yeah,
that is just such
best.
a brilliant line.
Yeah, I do like taking, more established, sensible work and making it as ridiculous as possible. So that's a lot of fun to do.
I loved getting to do allusions to the old superhero world in Forging Hephaestus, because it's just tons of things are clearly influenced by or allusions to that sort of concept. But my favorite full-on alluding to a work never actually made it to publication, but there was a book I worked on for a while called Crestfallen Lane, and one of the ways I kept it interesting for myself was I saw how many references to Mario Brothers I could slip in. Like scattered throughout. Like it was, the main characters were Mark and Lyle. Mark predominantly wore red and was shorter and dark hair. Lyle was taller and he predominantly wore green. One of Lyle's abilities was based on being able to jump high. One of Mark's abilities was coming back from the dead over and over, like he was respawning. There was I was pulling up obscure villain names to like subtly foreshadow characters who were going to betray them, but all from Mario, like Professor Wall-E or Wall-E-Gad or Egad. Professor Egad was like, I slipped that name into someone. I amused the shit out of myself, but it wasn't a very good book.
Speaking of, I guess, illusions, in this case it was more of a rip-off, but my parents are moving out of the family home at the minute, and I was going through the boxes and I found one of my old textbooks from when I must have been about 5 years old, and it was a creative writing test, it says, and all I had done is kind of transcribed a Mario Brothers game I had played and made it into a story, but it was really kind of like, and then Mario jumped on a turtle and punched a mushroom, and I'm thinking, there's no way, this is like back when Mario first came out, and there's probably no way my teacher knew what I was talking about. And sure enough, on the second page, just in big bold pen, it just has, what is happening here? And I thought, that was the first time I'd plagiarized something. And it was just incredibly amusing to me to think of my teacher just reading this. They've probably never played a video game in her life, just thinking, why is this kid, this 5-year-old kid, talking about a plumber jumping on turtles? And it still amuses me to this day.
I did the same thing because I used to be into like Japanese monster movies, and I remember I like cribbed a few plots for a few papers.
Nice. I do a lot of Shakespeare references because theater nerd. I don't have one real favorite, but
it's nice and fancy. It's a bit fancier than plagiarizing Mario Brothers.
Well, when the fucking Englishman lets us down on the posh shit, the redneck has to pick up the slack.
Well, if it makes any difference, I plagiarized that Mario story in an old English private school with uniforms and turrets and shit, and ivy-coloured stone walls. So my ridiculous turtle punching plagiarism did happen in a very posh environment, if that makes it any better.
I mean, Bill is just full of references and stuff, and some of them are subtle in jokes, some of them are not so subtle. But I mean, I don't know. I don't even remember where I came up with it, but I think it's probably just because I'm a Transformers nerd. But just making it so that this one character, essentially, he finds an Optimus Prime doll at like an auction, and he's so enamored of it that he somehow essentially imbues it with a little bit of his life energy, and it winds up being essentially a catalyst to kill vampires with. And I mean, a lot of my characters, they just scream battle cries from various 80s cartoons, and I'm just thinking how awesome would it be? And I remember I got that from college because somebody was telling me back then, he was like, he's like, if anybody ever picks a fight with me, I'm just going to turn to my friends and be like, it's morphin' time, motherfuckers. All right, so one last one. JC asks, one for the group. Have you ever had a party member or player that you absolutely needed to kill? If so, how did you do it?
So, Rick, I feel like from the stories you've told, you've been this character virtually every time.
Really?
Yeah, I've had far more friendly fire deaths than I really want to admit to.
It's what I love about Silas Kane. We still get people kind of listening who are angry about Silas Kane without realizing that he is the catalyst pretty much for everything that happens. If it wasn't for him, we'd probably just be playing a conventional Dungeons and Dragons adventure. I understand how that might be frustrating for some people, but
Yeah, I like that, and I don't usually like to call it negative reviews, but somebody was pretty much lambasting. It's like when is Silas going to get a moral center and get some ethics and and learn to empathize with the rest of the party?
What?
And here, let me just say, if you're listening, dude, never.
Also, you really don't get the point of this podcast.
Or actually, I will say, if he does, I guarantee it's not going to go like how you think it is.
That's the thing about Silas Kane and Klaus Richter to an extent, is they are anti-characters. They do the exact opposite of everything a character in their position should do, and that has been the driving force, I think, of the entire podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say, it's like you guys give me something like a joke or so, like the invisible arrows of Toreg, and I will run that motherfucker into the ground.
We noticed.
But good on you. You kept it in air long enough for it to be it feel honest when we paid it off.
How to play a paladin when your only motivation is spite.
When we're feeling generous, we call it commitment to character.
But it's true, if you think of every major upset and plot kind of redirection, it's happened because they just do something that it's not even unexpected, it's just kind of aggressively the opposite of what you'd expect a paladin or a thief to do. So, yeah. That amuses me.
I can't think of any characters I've played with that we just had to kill, because I've mostly played with my friends.
What disturbs me about this question, though, is he doesn't just say party member, he says player that you absolutely needed to kill.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, the statute of limitations requires me not to fucking answer this.
I've had players not get invited back to a game. But we never offed them and killed them in the desert and buried them under that rock and the 3 cactuses and shut the fuck up.
I just think I assumed that he was talking about Silas Kane, so that's why I went straight to Silas Kane there. I thought that was kind of a polite way of saying, when are you guys going to kill Silas? So that's just where my head went there.
I will say, every week that Silas survives... Which makes me glad I only see you guys once a year. But I got to say, every week that goes by where Silas somehow still lives, I do kind of find that a little bit amazing.
That's wonderful.
I also think you could make the argument that I've been trying to kill all of you every time we power hour.
That is a good argument. I will attest to that, yes.
That's why my first action upon waking after a power hour is I immediately text Drew with just the words, "God damn it, Drew."
Yep.
To be like, "God damn it, Drew, you didn't get me this time."
I had a discussion with some friends about how I'm going to start setting aside money for my funeral, because I'm genuinely going to hire a mobile margarita service and kegs and have a power hour done at my funeral, because I want my friends to curse me one more time.
Well, it's funny. After every con that we've done a power hour, which the next morning, usually the only ones up grabbing breakfast are me and Drew. And I think there's always that silent, unspoken question of, are the rest of them dead?
Sometimes we speak that question.
Yeah, I did ask Bevan a couple of times whether he was still alive. I mean,
Yeah.
but he was. So that's okay.
Well, at one point we messaged you to say, "Steve, are you dead?" But there was Taco Bell involved.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. That was a good assumption to make.
Yeah, and I think most of us assumed you just wished for death at that point.
Yeah, that was...
And to anyone walking by that section of hallway.
Dear God, what are you killing in there?
Yeah, it's just as well I didn't host a power hour on that day. I mean, that would have been uncomfortable for everyone concerned.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I think we're out of questions now.
Well, you know something? There is one last question that actually is related to that, and I think we can end off with that, because Chris asks, Steve, will you ever do Taco Bell again?
Oh, fuck no. I mean, you can say I'm going to save the analysis for the video because it has been taped, so you'll get to watch me sweating and eating what I assume is meat, but might not be. And it really just was. I mean, I like the idea. I've had Mexican food. I think there was one thing that Drew was like, "Oh, that's a quesadilla," and I was like, "I've had this before. It did not look like this weird, sweaty. I don't know, some kind of sea creature. It looked like."
Yeah, there's Mexican food and there's Taco Bell, and craving one doesn't necessarily mean craving the other.
Think of Taco Bell as Mexican food. If you had never seen Mexican food before, and somebody else who had never seen it before explained it to you, that's what Taco Bell is.
It felt like somebody had sculpted it from almost relevant genetic material, like some alien that tried to recreate an authentic Mexican experience despite having no idea where Mexico is or what Earth food is. It didn't feel like real food is what I'm getting at, but it's all in the video, so you guys can have the pleasure of watching me sweat and chew cheesy meat substitute. You asked for it. This is something the audience asked for, so there you go.
So, one, you're horrible.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are. If this is what you want, if that's what's entertaining to you, then you can watch me chew damp Taco Bell products. Which even that sounds like an innuendo of some kind.
Well, I think the terrifying thing is, like, if we ever wind up going over there for a con on your side of the pond, Steve, what are people going to be like? Okay, and this is what you need to make the other guys try.
I ain't eating haggis. Yeah. Fuck all y'all.
So you might want to start making your revenge list.
I'll tell you what. There's definitely things as awful as Taco Bell in England, but none of them are nationally recognised chains with logos and marketing teams. It amazes me not that Taco Bell exists, but that it is kind of a ubiquitously recognised brand. It's just, it's the most awful kebab shop in England. It's probably like on a Taco Bell level, but it'll be run by independents. They have the decency not to kind of assume they have the right to be nationally recognised as legitimate food outlets.
Look, Steve, sometimes you need a drive-through laxative and see a need,
so
fill a
what
need.
you're saying is next year it's either Bojangles spicy chicken or Arby's.
Or Pizza Hut.
I've had Pizza Hut. I mean, pizzas, you can't really go that wrong with pizza. Whereas it seemed like Taco Bell had put a lot of research into ways to go wrong with Mexican food. Some serious thought had gone into that. To the point where I genuinely say, is this Mexican food? Or is it food? For that matter.
No to both.
It's technically food.
A lot of things are technically food, depending on your level of desperation, I guess.
Yeah.
Would everyone like to finish by saying what they liked most about Con Carolinas? What was their favourite Con Carolinas experience? We've had our weirdest, but what was great about it?
I think the live episode itself was the high point for me because I just loved getting to see the audience that had grown and they were so into it and on board and participating, and they made that show so much better than it can be with just us, and that really hit home for me.
And getting Mikey to come in and open for us was great. That his Best Game Ever song really worked really well with what we were doing. So,
I think the amount of people that had come specifically and had heard about the podcast, I think somebody overheard me speaking and went, "Oh, you're that podcast guy." I was like, "Oh shit, this is weird." So there was walking into the live episode, I really wasn't nervous at all. It didn't feel like an audience. It just felt like people I was hanging out with. So it was really chilled out. And that was kind of a really great experience. And we got presented those badges as well. That was by
Sarah.
Sarah, yeah. That was excellent.
Yeah, I've got mine here on my desk. Those were pretty awesome.
Yeah, that
Me
ruled.
too.
That did.
That was an awesome surprise.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you guys made us feel like fucking rock stars, which was awesome because we're just a bunch of mid-list fantasy fuckers dicking around on a podcast, and you guys made us feel like rock stars, and that was great.
Well, also, I mean, everything you guys said was definitely at the top, but like I would say, like another great moment was that Paladin panel we did.
Yeah,
that was packed too.
Yeah.
And having our team on the front row passing my phone back and forth to do the video.
Oh yeah, if anyone's listening hasn't seen the video yet, that is up on YouTube. Do go check it out. But yeah, I think it was generally. I mean, obviously, I love seeing you guys. I love doing power hours and getting ridiculously drunk. But I think just kind of every time somebody said, "Oh yeah, I listened to the podcast," I was kind of bemused and blown away. And it was a very special experience. So thanks to everybody who turned up.
Yeah. I completely agree.
Yeah, that was a wild kind of difference from the year before. Just the number of people who already knew like about the podcast when they talked to us.
The number of people that came to the con for us was incredibly flattering.
Very much.
You know, I came home and on Thursday night, I came home and talked to my wife about that and said, you know, I hope that never gets old. I mean, yes, I'd love to sell a couple million books and have my cocaine statue of J.K. Rowling, but I hope I never get to the point where I get jaded about that shit, because meeting people who are willing to schedule travel and buy plane tickets and make major travel investments just to see us, that's pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Amen.
It is really hard to beat that.
I don't think there was a single interaction I wasn't humbled and flattered by anybody who'd just taken the time to say, "Oh yeah, you know, I listened to the podcast. I came here to see you guys live." I was like, "Holy shit, it's insane, but it's brilliant."
yeah.
Oh, it was wonderful.
So stay tuned, and once we've got our travel plans, we'll let you know where we'll be next year, because we've done Con Carolinas 2 years in a row, so we might be spreading it out geographically a little bit. It's great for me, because I live 20 minutes from the con, but it's not as great for everybody else who has to get on airplanes or drive 10 hours or whatever. So we're going to be spending chunks of the rest of 2018 figuring out where we'll be in 2019, and as soon as we figure that shit out, we'll let you guys know.
Oh yeah, and if you've got a con you'd like to see us at, fucking bother the shit out of those people. Start a letter writing campaign, or an email, I suppose, is probably more, useful. But yeah, bother them. Mm-hmm. Bother them to heck.
We've said it before, we'll say it again. If a con invites us, we'll probably come, because that cuts a lot of the burden off of us.
Yeah, if somebody's willing to pay for travel, we're fucking there.
Oh yeah, that definitely makes a lot of a difference. But stay within the confines of the law. Don't kidnap anybody's children for us.
Yeah, we've got to say that on the record.
Yeah.
And we're not allowed
Off
to
the
wink at the
record.
camera anymore either.
Yeah, we don't have the camera going. You can't see me winking and, tell me that you're a grown-up and you can make your own decisions.
And on that note, we will see you in 2 weeks with an actual episode of Authors and Dragons. Till then, bye.
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 Authors and Dragons is brought to you under a Creative Commons license, meaning you are free to share this material so long as credit is given to those who created it, which is us, the people you just heard play the game. Opening and closing themes performed by the Gore Core 4.